morning, my name's Graham West and welcome to the fantastic Albans Lakes near Hertfordshire. We're going to try and catch some fish on an open end feeder using a short chuck. Come with me. Let's have a look at what bait we're going to use today. Now if you join me on the last video, we were fishing for small fish, little skimmers and aiming to catch between 10 and 15 pound. But this time it's a different game. We're fishing for big fish, and if they come into your swim, you need to keep them there. And because of that, today I'm using a proper fish meal ground bait, 50/50 method and paste green. I've used it for the last 4 years, it's been absolutely fantastic for me. So I'm going to use quite a lot of ground bait. So I'm going to put half a bag in there. Now 50/50 green is full of crushed pellets. There's all sorts in there. There's all sorts of particles. And what's so good is that when the fish come in, because of all the particles that are in the ground bait, they stay. What also I like to do is give myself a little bit of an edge, and I like to use a little bit of flavouring in my water. So before I put the water in the ground bait, I'm just going to add a little bit of Scopex flavour. Generous squirt of that. Give that a little just round. Now this is going to be a two-stage process because it takes a while, because there's lots of pellets and everything in there. It absorbs the water quite a lot. So just to leave that 20 minutes, we're going to mix around now, leave it 20 minutes. We're going to come back to it and we're going to have a look at it again and get it to exactly the same texture that I need to fish with. And as you can see, that's very wet. It's quite oily because of the pellets. Now obviously we can't use it like that because it hasn't absorbed the water and it's still quite coarse. So within 20 minutes that will have absorbed the water, we'll come back and we'll put it through the sieve and get it exactly how we need it. Okay, so we've come back to the ground bait now, and you can have a look. I've left it 20 minutes. As you can see, it's stuck in the bottom of the bucket. So we need to just get my hands in there, loosen it up a little bit, get a bit of air in it. Now method and paste is a heavy sticky ground bait, hence the method and paste name. So what I'm going to do during the day, I'm not going to leave it, the ground bait like this. I'm going to adjust it during the day, add some water to it, different textures as the day goes on. Obviously less particles coming off it when I cast in because I'm using a cage feeder. So later on in the day it's going to go in stodgy and sticky when I want less food coming off it. Right, let's just put it through the sieve. Now I'm not going to mix it all through the sieve first of all. So I'm going to leave the rest of that in the bucket. So later on in the day, because if you try and do it all now, it will change. So we'll mix up enough ground what I need to start with and feed with. And then once we start to fish a little bit later in the day, we'll go back to the original mix, add a little bit of water, and then we can mess around with the texture of it then. So we'll just rub that through the sieve, get all the lumps out. Now, need to get the lumps out, because if you put it in with lumps, the fish will come and eat one lump that's going to fill the fish up. So that needs to be nice and fluffy like that. Perfect and ready to use. So the ambition today is to catch fish on the short feeder chuck. In part one we fished the long feeder on the cage, today we're going to fish the short feeder chuck. But you need to prime this inside line. Now if you chuck a feeder out early and catch a fish straight away, great. But the chances are you're going to spook them fish. So you need to prime that inside line to let them settle. I've started today by feeding 10 feederfuls, and this is a big feeder. As I said, we're fishing for big fish here today. Now if I put 10 little feederfuls then that big, 2 fish could come in and wipe all that out in one go. So I need to set my trap with a lot of bait, and in this bait I've put worms, I've put maggots, I've put 2mm pellets, I've put 6mm pellets, I've put dead maggots, everything. There's been lots of bait going there. So when these fish come in, they are going to stay. but it is really important that you prime that line. Also over the top, I'm going to feed, for the first 2 or 3 hours, I'm going to feed some 6mm bloodworm pellets over the top. Reason being, I'm fishing in deep water, and them fish are not going to be sitting on the bottom. They're going to be trolling up and down. They might put their noses in the ground bait for a little while, but they will not settle. So just drip a little bait in over the top. It'll go past their noses, they'll follow it down, and hopefully once they find the bait, they'll settle. But you have to prime that line. It's really important that you sit off that line for a good 2 to 3 hours in a 5-hour match. Now, to prime that line, I need to fish a different line at the start for 2 or 3 hours. I'm aiming to catch short. I need to fish another line well away from that short line. I can't chuck 10 metres past it. I need to be chucking quite a way past it. Now, my short line today is at 18 metres. So I'm going to fish a long line for the first 2 or 3 hours. I don't want to congregate my fish there. I want to congregate them close in, because I can catch them quicker. If I can get them lined up at 18 metres, I can catch them twice as quick. It's closer to get them in, and I can build a weight a lot quicker. So I'm going to start a lot, 45 metres, 4 or 5 feeder falls. I don't want to put a mountain of bait out there because I want to congregate them in close in. Oh. Look at that. Now that's what you call a bonus fish. Look at that bream. Look. Oh. God, beautiful. Oh. Now that's what you call a bonus. Look at that. Beautiful. Mwah. What's really important when you choose your weapon for fishing this close in line is that you pick a rod that's extremely soft. The bites can be really aggressive. Remember, you're fishing quite a tight line, you're fishing only 16 metres out, and you're fishing for big fish. So today I've chosen one of the new Tyson carp feeder rods. It's 10 foot long, ever so soft, but enough backbone in. If I get a real big fish, I can play it well. I've got a 6 pound sinking mono. I've got a 420 centris reel. I'm starting with a 25 gram cage feeder. Now I need this to be heavy enough so when I hit that clip, it's going to go in a straight line. Or when that's going in a straight line, there is a reason for that, and I'll discuss that with you later. The cage feeder originally create a column going through the water. Now this is 13 to 14 foot deep. Them fish are not living on the bottom. They are living 2 to 3 foot, 4 foot off the bottom in the warmest column. It's freezing cold, the water's about 4 degrees. So I'm trying to drag them fish down to the initial feed I put in at the start. So I'm going to start on the cage, as I said, but once I know there's a few fish there, I'm going to moisten my ground bait up, and then, which we'll have a look at shortly, so nothing's coming out as it goes through the water. I want to congregate them fish right close to the bottom. So hopefully we're going to catch a few fish. We've just had two in two successions. We've left it 3 hours. I've been feeding for 3 hours over the top of there, pinging a few pellets. Now after 3 hours I've gone on it, and I've had 2 proper bream in 2 chucks. So hopefully now it's bag up time. And there we go. Absolutely solid. We've left it 3 hours, 3 chucks. I've had 3 bream in 3 chucks, and that must have only been out there a minute. So priming it is so important. I could have gone on there straight at the start, started on the short line, and I might have caught 3 or 4, and I thought this is great. But if you spook them and they don't settle, as I was saying, a lovely soft rod. Not fishing far out, not doing a big chuck. Lovely soft rod, and look at that. Look at that. Absolutely superb. Oh. Beautiful. God. Cool. Look at that. God. Look at that. End of November, freezing cold. Absolutely superb. Let's put him in the net. Okay, so we've been fishing now for about 30 minutes on this short line. I've had 5 fish in 30 minutes, probably £3 a piece, £15 in 30 minutes. The fish are there now. What's really important when you fish this short line is to make sure that your rod is at 45 degrees. If you have it in front of you, like a lot of people like to fish the method, oh, and there we go, we're in again. 6 fish. And I've just chucked that out. That must have only been out there 45 seconds. Now if you prime that line, and I do keep saying about it, if you prime that line, don't go on them too early. You must leave them time to settle, and it's really important. As you can see, it's absolutely solid there now. But as I was going back to saying, make sure your rod's at 45 degrees. These fish, when they bite, you're so close to them, they're not far out, and they're big fish, whether they be carp or whether they be bream. If your rod's in front of you, they will break you on your bite. They're big fish and they pull hard. They haven't got far to stretch your line. There we go, look at that, another prime, pristine bream. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Absolutely fantastic. Just disgorge that. Look at that. Absolutely superb. Lovely, let's get back out. Now I want to keep the fish there, so I've stopped feeding over the top. Once they turn up, I've stopped feeding over the top. I just now need to congregate them onto the bottom. Now if I keep feeding over the top, they'll start to come up in the water. So loose feeding has now stopped. I've increased worms, micro pellets through the feed. Now I want them really grubbing on the bottom. Now that they're here, hit your clip. Just let them fish in deep water, so I just want it to go down in the same line, and I'm going to hold it still. So the last 4 or 5 foot of the drop is coming back at me. Now when it comes back at me, this is the reason why we fish longer hook lengths when we fish the feeder. If you hold it tight, as your feeder falls, as it drops in the water, if it comes towards you, it's straightening out your hook length. So as it drops, if you follow it down with your rod in a straight line, your hook length is going in a straight line behind your feeder. If you hold it tight for the last 4 or 5 seconds before it hits the bottom, it will pull your feeder towards you and straighten out your hook length. Just remember that. Just before it hits the bottom, hold the feeder tight. Here we go. There we go. The proof is in the pudding. I've just cast that, and there we go, another bream. 35 seconds. Absolutely superb. Now just before they hit the bottom, as I said, I've held that feeder tight. My hook length has gone in a straight line. excuse the ducks. Hook them's gone in a straight line, so as soon as that hook's in the fish's mouth, I'm getting an indication straight away. And these aren't little fish, they're big fish. Soft rods, so important. Oh, look at the size of that. That's got to be 4 pound. Wow. Oh, look. Look at the size of that. Wow. Come on. Oh, get in there. Look, it might even be bigger than that. Look at that. Wow. That is absolutely immense. Let's have a look where the hook is. Look, we'll just see it. Wow. I'm going to have to show you this one. God. God. Look at that. Wow. Let's put him in the net. Right, now that the fish are here, when I'm putting the ground bait in the feeder now, I want it to go in and stay in there. So I'm going to compact it in quite hard. So I'm going to get a few offerings coming off it because it's on a cage feeder. So I'm just going to get it in there and push it in quite hard. There we go. So that's in there, proper compacted in there. So on the hook I'm fishing a double live maggot, but be prepared to change. On the free offerings, clip, free offerings are dead maggots. I've got some dead white maggots in there, which are really, really good bait for bream, especially when it's cold. There's some worms in there. Recently I fished a match down here and I've caught a lot of fish on red worms. But while you're still getting bites on the same bait, there's no point changing. It's when you've been catching a few fish on the maggots and then it stops. Now, have the fish backed off, or do they just get a little bit wary of the maggot? So maybe a piece of worm, maybe a couple of dead white maggots, maybe a couple of dead red maggots. Just be prepared to change. But while it's still going around and you're catching a few, just carry on doing what you're doing. There's no point changing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, we've had an absolutely amazing day, and what a way to end the day. Let's have a look at what we've caught. What can I say? We had an absolutely amazing day at Albans Fishery. It's been 5 degrees today. We've fished the short chuck and it's been absolutely superb. We had one of the red letter days. Let's have a look at what we've caught. Well, an amazing day. Let's hope you can put some of the tips I've given you to in your own fishing and you can have some lovely days fishing like that. See you soon.